Okay, we just want to say a welcome to each and every one of you. There are 75 windows here, which is just absolutely amazing. We were wondering whether there would be more than 4 or 5, but it's just wonderful to have each and every one of you here. My name is Pervin Varma, and I'm the proud daughter of Dr. Najoo Varkey, whose book we're launching here today. The book, I just show you this book. Yeah, it says, Stop Marrying Your Niece or Uncle or Cousin. One doctor's fight to overturn a social custom and prevent deafness. Before we go into the book launch, actually, I just want to introduce you to a few people who are here who really made this possible. First is on my right here, Regina. I just really want to thank her, Regina from Cry, my partner in crime from Cry for many, many years, but really who pulled it all together. And so many of you are here because she got in touch with all of you. Thank you to the Cry team and the Cry network, really for mobilizing so many of you to be here. I just want to thank, you will hear from Lalana Zaveri and Kirtana Kumar and Konarak Reddy, who've really been an integral partners and collaborators in this project. And of course, put your camera on, my niece Ava, who's really conceptualized and put this wonderful and designed this wonderful book, along with my sister, who's also here, and family. So just really want to really say thank you to all of you. And of course, the main person, now I'm going to spotlight Mom, yeah, spotlight, yes. The main person really that we're talking about today, and whose work actually, most importantly, we're talking about, is my mother, Dr. Najoo Varkey. Really, this is a 33-year journey that she undertook starting off, and she'll tell you a little bit more on her story, as a pediatrician with the Sheila Kotawala School. And in fact, the principal of the school and one of Mummy's great collaborators over the years, Dr. Jessie, is also here with us. And I'm going to actually add a spotlight so you can see, yes, this is the school in which all of this amazing work happened. I think my mother has really kind of pretty much quietly, steadfastly, and relentlessly pursued this issue. That literally came up. She stumbled upon in her work in the Sheila Kotawala School for the Deaf, which is the practice of consanguinity, or what is called consanguineous marriages, or what probably we're more familiar with the term blood marriages. And you will hear about these issues. You will hear about the devastating consequences of it through today. But I think I just want to take a minute, and I think for all of us here, just to acknowledge my mother. Those of us, there are many over here who've been involved in this journey, friends, family, collaborators. I think the one thing we've all been so completely inspired by is her single-minded devotion to this. And truly, when you say the power of one, my mother's an example of that, because she really did this single-handedly, whether it was running to government offices, to places she'd never been before, to institutions she'd never encountered before. Nothing stopped her, nothing came in the way, if it meant that it was something that could further this issue and highlight this issue more. So really, I think for me, today is not just about the work itself, but it's also, I think, a call perhaps, or an inspiration for each of us, that if we really put our minds to it, we can do pretty much anything. Even at 89, honestly, she completely astounds me with her energy, determination, and courage. And so really, we're really proud this evening to be able to really share her work, this work, which is a culmination of 33 years of her work, to share it today with all of you. And we just hope that this evening will encourage you, inspire you, or at least create awareness about something that really we need to be talking more about. Yeah. So I'm going to, I'm just going to be introducing you to the people, or what we're going to be doing. So the first thing really is going to introduce you to Ava Rego, my niece, my sister Nawaz Varkey's and Anand Rego's daughter. She's the one who has designed and conceptualized and put this book together, and she's going to tell you a bit more about the book and also why she did what she did. So just, yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege for me to introduce this book to you all today. For me, the formatting and compiling and designing of this incredible work of my grandmother into this book has been an almost 2.5 year labor of love. For Amy, my grandmother, this has been a decades long endeavor that I am proud to carry into the next generation. So for today, I thought I'd read out to you all the introduction I wrote for the book, which hopefully contextualizes the work that Amy has done for the new generation. So when I started working on this book, I must admit that I had a narrative in my head that the story I was compiling was one of disappointment. If only the incredible work of my grandmother, who I call Amy, had actually done something. If only it had caused the government to step in and ban consanguineous marriage, also marriage between family members. If only this had become a national or an international campaign. If only, if only, if only. I have since come to realize that this narrative could not be further from the truth, and that this is actually a story of hope and triumph. And this is for three very important reasons. Firstly, social customs are some of the most valued and protected parts of any culture, and this makes them the hardest to challenge. Imagine if a doctor discovered that eating cake on your birthday was responsible for causing a deadly disease, and so they told you that you should stop eating cake forever. No matter how much of an expert they were, or even if the government made eating cake on your birthday illegal, would any of you be willing to give up cake forever? I realize that there is a big difference between consanguineous marriage and birthday cake. But what they do have in common is that they are social customs, things that we will be reluctant to stop doing because they are so deeply embedded in what we consider to be normal life. So, overturning a social custom is extremely difficult, even if you have knowledge, time, money, and people on your side. Amy, my grandma, had about half of these things. She had the knowledge that consanguinity increases the chances of deafness and other disabilities amongst offspring. And she made the time to research, write about, and then meet with people to share this knowledge. She didn't really have the money or the people power, but she made do, enterprisingly using her social network to fundraise and enlisting people to help her along the way. Given that the odds were stacked against her in the social change game, Amy accomplished the unimaginable. She undoubtedly did it with a lot of help, but ultimately, she single handedly led an initiative tackling culturally induced deafness, right from the medical discovery of the problem all the way to the social campaign to raise awareness about it. The second reason that this is a story of hope is that Amy's efforts have been tremendously effective, for the simple reason that they actually reached those South Indian communities who practice the custom of consanguineous marriage, unaware of its consequences. Getting a government to legislate on a social issue, whilst incredible, doesn't guarantee that it will be implemented effectively or at all on the ground. Similarly, although it is fantastic if the world finds out about your social efforts, it doesn't mean that these efforts reach the communities who need to hear your message most. By contrast, what Amy did, in collaboration with a lot of wonderful people here today, was to create radio and TV spots, which were far more likely to reach her target audience than a government policy mandate. I know for myself that I'm more likely to see an ad on TV than read a government policy paper. And I think most people here would agree with me on that. More importantly, what Amy did was translate these spots into multiple languages, which meant that all members of her target audience could truly understand her message. In essence, she spearheaded a strategic bottom-up campaign that converted her message into an accessible medium and then delivered it directly to the people who needed to hear it most. The third reason that this is a story of hope is that the story isn't over yet. This book is about capturing Amy's efforts so that future doctors, activists, and all of us here today might have the resources to continue her legacy. Amy has done the monster share of the work so far, so it's time to even the workload. I am certain that the issue of consanguinity and deafness will have its day both in government and in the international arena. It's now up to us to take her work and bring it to these spaces, and I sincerely hope that this book and my absolute legend of a grandmother will inspire you to do so.
Thank you so much, Ava. So I'm going to invite another person who's been really central to this work, and that's, let me just ask Lalana, yeah. Lalana, I'm asking you to unmute, yeah. Lalana Zaveri is one of the founders and owners of Printo, which everyone in Bangalore knows very well because most of us are getting most of our things produced in Printo. But she also is family. And in many ways, I think when this work had come to a kind of, mom's work for a while now, she hadn't been involved in it, various things were happening. But somehow when we started talking about this again and saying, okay, put it together in a book, and Ava started working on this, we talked to Lalana about it. And she really, her enthusiasm, I think, gave this book a new lease of life. But besides that, not besides that, in addition to that, what has been incredible is that this book has been printed by Printo, put together by Printo, but they have done it completely free of cost as their contribution to this mission and to this work. So we're just so deeply grateful to her and to Printo for that. But just going to hand it over to Lalana to say a few. Yes, my mother says they made 100 copies. So yeah,
that's just the start.
Yeah.
Thank you, Parveen, and hello everyone. So Najoo Masi had once told me this story. I call her Najoo Masi because I am family, and she is related to me. So she had once told me this story of how she was giving a talk on consanguineous marriages and the impact at a college, and how there was a girl in the audience who was about to get married, and it was going to be a consanguineous marriage. And after hearing her talk, she changed her mind, and she realized what was happening and what she needed to do, how she needed to stand up to her parents and stop this marriage. And I think I am very drawn to stories where there has been a difference that has been made by a person. And this completely drew me into this project. And I'm also drawn, like all of you here, to social causes, but even more to people who are passionate about social causes. And I think the first time I met Najoo Masi as an adult, there was this amazing twinkle in her eye with passion and fervor when she spoke about consanguinity and what needs to be done about it. And there was no getting away from it. I was hooked from the beginning as soon as I met her. And I knew that there had to be some way I can participate in this. The first time I met Najoo Masi was actually for a project which is quite different from this one. We were creating a book that she wanted to gift to Ava. And that's when I got to meet Ava as well in a very interesting way. I got to see her creativity, her brilliant design sense, all of that. And I'm so happy that I got to see more of it as this project continued. So I think what's really been amazing about interacting and participating in this project, Najoo Masi, is not just your determination to see this through, but also your openness, your curiosity, your willingness to invite others to participate with equal fervor and passion in this project and make it their own as well. And I think that's exactly what I experienced. And I'm really grateful. I feel honored to have been part of this. You are definitely one of my idols. I'm inspired by you. And my question and my hope is, I hope I can be just like you when I grow up. And I think that's a journey that I will continue to be on, and really look forward to having these genes transferred into me somehow. I know there's no genetic connection, but hopefully it will reach me. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Lalana. Yeah. And so now I'm going to invite Mum, Dr. Najoo Varkey, and she will say a few words most reluctantly. She has not wanted to say anything, but we convinced her that she needs to say a few words since this is her work. So yes, Mama, yours.
If you don't want to read it, just say what you want. Say everybody said. Well, good evening to everyone who's here today, and thank you very, very much for being here. I think all the things that really needed to be said have already been said by Ava, Pervin, Lalana. So I have very little to say except to agree with all that they have said, because it is very true that I am very fond of this project of mine. And how it started was, I went in 1989 to do some voluntary work at the Sheila Kothawala School for the hearing impaired. It is situated right next to Manipal Hospital. One of my very dear friends who used to work there was retiring, and she requested me that please can you come and take over. So that's how I said, okay, I'll try it out. And I went. Frankly, I had never worked, I had never had deaf patient in my pediatric practice. So I thought, it's okay, let me see how it will go. And that's how I started working at the Sheila Kothawala School. Now, as I started working there, year after year, I would take a history for each child. Each child has a card, even now. And I would take this history and examine them, and that would be the record for each child. So as this went on for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I realized that there's a pattern to this. Say if 30 children were admitted each year, since it is a school for special needs, the number of admissions every year is very few. It's not like schools where you go to do your ISC and such. So if 30 children got admitted, then at least 16 or 17 of them would have consanguineous marriages between their parents. Now, consanguineous marriage is a marriage between uncle, niece, or first cousins. And this is a custom which is quite common in southern part of India. And it is also a custom which causes several problems. And one of those problems is deafness. And that is why this school, Sheila Kotawala Institute for the Deaf, had most of these children from parents who had consanguineous marriages. So, at first, I had not heard of this condition, and I wondered whether I was imagining all this. So, I had to first prove to myself that this was a fact before I could do something about it. So, I went to St. John's, and there I was able to sort this out. I saw in foreign magazines large family trees with this type of custom and marriages, and many countries where this whole thing was legally banned. Anyway, when I came back to the school, I decided that something needs to be done. So I would talk to the other doctors who came, other doctors of high repute who were doing pediatrics for so many years, and they would have come across these type of cases, but didn't really think much about it, or didn't think, even if they did know, that much could be done. So I was left with this problem, and then it was Dr. Manju Ghosh from All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Dr. Manju Ghosh, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, was doing research on this very subject. Imagine, she and her team were doing research on this very subject and were going around schools in South India, because they had also come to know that in South India this problem was very common. And so that is how I met Dr. Manju Ghosh, and we worked together on this problem. Then, over the years, it was who arranged for me to attend various conferences and whatever to further my knowledge, further this problem. And so that's how I got very deeply involved in this whole thing. And despite innumerable obstacles, there were many obstacles all along the way, I would think of these children and their parents, and what should I say, the important part is that this does not require this prevention, and this prevention of this type of deafness does not require any expensive immunizations, medicines, nothing. It just requires prevention of doing this. And so that is the message that I needed to spread. And so that is what I have tried to do over all these years. And I don't know, I have maybe succeeded a little bit, but I hope that future generations will continue with this, and that at some time this can be eradicated just by simply spreading a message. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Najoo Varkey. Thank you so much. Yeah, every time we listen to her, I think it inspires us again and again, actually. And we always say that we have a very hard act to follow. Cannot stop, cannot say, oh, we'll retire, we'll have an easy life. But anyway, yeah, so what we'd like to do actually now is I'm going to ask Ava, we're just going to share because we're on Zoom, so we don't have a physical book to show you. So we're going to actually try and share the book for you on Zoom. Ava will share screen and you'll get a glimpse of the book. Just to say also that this is the book. It's in PDF copy and hard copy, and there's this little QR code at the end. So if you scan that, you'll go straight to the films, and we'll be talking a bit the YouTube channel actually, which has the films that my mother talked about. Yeah. Thank you also so much for your comments. We're going to read them all out to my mother after we're done with the launch. But I just want to just now introduce actually, if my mother talked about films that were made in 2004, actually all the way back in 2004. Kirtana Kumar and Konarak Reddy, their Jasmine films made these films, awareness films. Actually, there's a documentary. There are television spots and radio spots that were made, and they're made actually in 4 languages right at the start. Of course, in English, but in Tamil, in Kannada, and in Telugu, and to address the 3 states. And so I'm really happy I'm so happy actually that Kirtana is here, and also her daughter, who at that time was really small and became good pals with my mother while she sat there waiting in editing rooms. Yeah. Yes. Sorry? Yes. All the material, actually, the books, the films, they're all Creative Commons and completely free, can be used and even translated as necessary. Okay, so I'm going to just invite Kirtana.
All filmed at the school.
Yes, the entire, actually all the filming was done at the school, at the Sheila Kothawala school. So the children are all from, at that time in 2004, they must be all grown up now. They're all children from the school and their parents. Sorry.
Najoo Aunty, I just wanted to say that future generations, they're going to call this the Dr. Najoo Varkey campaign or the Dr. Najoo Varkey movement or something like that. We're never going to be able to escape this fact. Seriously, Najoo Aunty. Yeah, so actually Najoo Aunty said everything that has to be said about the reason for the film, but I do want to tell you one little thing about the process. So Najoo Aunty came home one day and she came home with all this, with this information. And Konarak and I just thought, if we don't do this with, it's crazy, because it was such a privilege and such an honor to be able to participate in this project. We went with Najoo Auntie to Dr. Sheila Kotawala, of course, and met Jessie there. But more than anything, it was like a detective film, because there was Najoo Auntie, who had all these cards, these biographical cards in these boxes, and had observed by sheer accident in her pediatric practice, because she was so precise as she is now in her speaking. She had kept these biographical cards of each child. And like a detective, Najoo Auntie had noted the similarities and the patterns that emerged. And for us, this really struck us, and this became what the film could then be. Because like Ava said, social custom is a very dangerous ground to tread on and is not easy at all. And yet here was Najoo Auntie bravely going in with this very singular message, which is, it's not difficult. There's no pharmaceutical research involved. I am sending the data that I have and the research that I have to AIIMS. And all we have to do is share the information with the public. Nothing that I'm doing is contentious. I'm sharing what I know with the public, and the public will then make their own decisions. It was simply, for us, it was a really precious time going to Sheila Kotawala, meeting the children and also meeting their families. It was really quite remarkable. And that's it. I don't know. I just feel so glad that we were all in this together at this moment of time. And I know that it's changed us forever, Najoo Auntie, because that might have been like one project. But the things that we learned, the things that families said about never wanting to change the way things turned out, despite knowing they wouldn't want future generations to live this way for sure. But the love that they had within themselves, and within the territory of deafness was just so amazing. So we're really forever touched by it, forever changed by it. Najoo Auntie, you're just everything to us. Kunal couldn't be here today, but you know how much he adores you. And so, yeah, you're the forever inspiration, Najoo Auntie.
Thank you so much, Kirtana. And we're just going to show you the film, because the film actually lays out the issues so clearly. It's an old film. It's made in 2004, but the film really lays out the issues very clearly. So we just thought that we can show you the film and also give you an idea of the kind of material, because this film is available in the 3 other languages that I told you about. Sorry, Kirtana, you have one more thing you wanted to share?
Sorry, I'm so sorry to take time, but I did want to say something. Najoo Auntie wasn't happy just with the film, right? So then Najoo Auntie also had to make the public awareness campaigns. She also had to do the radio spots. And among the million different things that she did, all these different obstacles, Najoo Auntie also went and sat in studios completely alien to her and began making copies of all of this. I wanted to tell you this because all we did was make this thing. But after that, Najoo Auntie, literally sat in studios and made copies of it. Just wanted to say that.
Actually, thank you for saying that, Kirtana, because, today everything is so simple. You put something on a YouTube link and you can send a link out. But in those days when Mom did this work, it was those CDs. So she made, I don't know, maybe at least about 5,000 CDs. I don't know how many. And she would sit in the studio herself and get those CDs made and then go and get them and then send them and courier them to every possible part of the country. So yes, it was, we had many, many CDs in those days. I've forgotten that. All right, Ava, you screen? Yeah. Okay, we'll screen the film for you.
It wasn't really a planned thing. It just happened that I started doing some voluntary work at the Sheila Kotawala School for Institute for the Deaf, as in my capacity as a pediatrician. And in that capacity, a detailed history had to be taken for every child as I examined them and needed this for their follow-up. So over the years, it just came to light that if, say, 10 or 12 children were admitted every year, at least 5 or 6 of them would be deaf because of consanguineous marriages between their parents. Consanguineous marriages means marriages between first cousins or uncle-niece, which is a very prevalent custom in the 3 southern states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh.
You say? Loudly, Shakti. You? Saucer. Saucer.
ಅದೇ ಭಗವಂತನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದೇನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೊಡಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡ್ರಿ, ಇಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಭಗವಂತ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು, ತಾಪತ್ರ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಒಳ್ಳೆಯವರಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರೋ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಬೇಕು. ಹಿಂಗಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಳಿ? ಅಷ್ಟು ನೋವಾಗ್ತೈತೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಮಾಡೋ ಬಿಹೇವ್ನಿಂದ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಮೂಗ್ರು ಇವ್ರು ಹಂಗೆ ಇವ್ರಿಬ್ರಿಗೂ ಕಿವಿ ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಜಾರಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದೇ ನೋಡಿ ಇವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ರೀತಿ ನೋಡಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತೈತೆ. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಮೇಡಮ್.
अभी मैसूर गई परसों में, मैसूर जाने के बाद में क्या बोले वो ऐसा ये होते वही ऑपरेशन है 7 लाख बोलते, 7 लाख बना देते, मगर उसको फिर वो भरोसा नहीं देते ना क्या करना, इसलिए मैं खामोश रह गई. भरोसा नहीं है ना, पैसे जाने के बाद कुछ भी नहीं, मगर अच्छा हो गई तो लड़की मुझे खुशी होती है, पैसा गए जाता मगर बच्ची खुश हो गए, खुशी होती है ना, बच्ची बात कर दी तो इसलिए मैं बोलती हूँ. वो क्या बोले कान का ही फर्क हो गया, सर का दिमाग का कुछ भी नहीं. और
in the paper that I presented on this particular problem at the National International ENT conference held in Bangalore in January 2002, the pie chart in my paper regarding socio-economic aspect as related to consanguinity came up with these statistics. 36% of children studied had a monthly income of, or the family had a monthly income from 0 to 1,000 rupees. And another 32% had an income from 1,000 to 2,000 rupees. So 68% had a monthly income from 0 to 2,000 rupees. So this we felt was significant. That probably because of lack of awareness and a more rigid adherence to this particular custom, it was this weaker section that were more prone to this form of deafness.
ನಮ್ಗೇನು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನೀವು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸು ಕೆಲವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇದು ರಿಲೇಷನ್ಶಿಪ್ನಿಂದ ಈ ಥರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅನುಭವಕ್ಕೂ ಬಂತದು. ಇವಾಗ ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ನು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಜನ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆಗೋರು ಈ ರೀತಿ ರಕ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧದಲ್ಲಿ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇಂಥವೆಲ್ಲ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗಲಿ. ಇಂಥ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅನುಭವಿಸೋದು ಯಾಕೆ? ಇವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಥರ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಂತೋಷ ಇತ್ತು. ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಥರ ಮಾತಾಡೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಮಾಡೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಇವ್ರದೇ ಒಂಥರ ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಲೋಕ. ಆ ಹುಡುಗರು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೊಂಥರ ಬೇಜಾರಾಗ್ತೈತೆ, ಏನಪ್ಪ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಾತಾಡೋಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗೋರು ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ತಮ್ಮ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗೋರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ.
It's almost 15 years that I've been doing voluntary work at the school. So all these records are maintained over these 15 years, and every year it was the same pattern, with the result that about 52% of the children studying at this school are deaf because of consanguineous marriages. This type of deafness, in scientific terms, this deafness is referred to as non-syndromal recessive deafness. So this particular form of deafness is definitely more common in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh.
And why do you feel so?
Because of this prevalent practice of marriages, uncle, niece and first cousins. This is not, so these type of marriages are not found in other parts of the country, not to this extent. So their research has shown that this type of deafness is much less common in other parts of India.
No, it's an arranged marriage only. My name is Jayashree, no problem to say that. And he is my mother's eldest brother's son, so uncle's son. And because uncle approached my mother, it took place, and it was not very much willing from our side, just because I was not completed my studies and all. But still they waited because they liked and they wanted to be. So they had to wait for 1 or 1.5 years. Then I could complete my graduation, and then it materialized with not much willingness from me or my family. So that was the reason how it, and after that again I had to go for doing my B.Ed, just because I was not very much wanted to get married at that time. And after finishing again my B.Ed, I had to join, and then after 3 years I got Hindu. And after 6, 7, 8 months only we came to know. As it is, she was little premature. And she was little smaller also in size and all. It took little time for her to develop. But then to know about this problem, it took a long time for us.
வீட்டில் நம்ம சமையல் செய்யும்போது இந்த குக்கர் சவுண்டு, மிக்சி சவுண்டு எதுவும் அது அப்சர்வ் பண்ணவே இல்லை. அப்புறம் நம்ம டாக்டர்கிட்ட இஎன்டி ஸ்பெஷலிஸ்ட்டுக்கு கொண்டு போய் காமிச்சும்போது அவர் பார்த்துட்டு டைரெக்டாக லிங்கராஜபுரம் ஸ்பீச் அண்ட் இயர் இன்ஸ்டியூட்டுக்கு ரெஃபர் பண்ணாங்க. அங்கே போய் ஆடியோலஜி எல்லாம் டெஸ்ட் பண்ணி சிவியர் மோர் தென் 80% லாஸ் அப்படின்ற இது ரிப்போர்ட் வச்சு அப்புறம் இந்த ஸ்கூலில் கொண்டு வந்து ஜாயின் பண்ணாங்க.
This is the data that Dr. Manju Ghosh of All India Institute of Medical Sciences very kindly gave me to use for my paper. So they have found that there are more than 100 genes that produce deafness, but out of these 100 genes, there was a predominance of a single gene on chromosome 13 known as connexin 26, and this particular gene was the major cause of deafness in several ethnic populations.
ஆனால் இது மாதிரி கல்யாணம் இது மாதிரி தேவையில்லை, ரிலேஷனில் கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்க தேவையில்லை.
ಇವಳು ಮಗಳಿಗೆ ಇದಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಭಾವನೆನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರೇನೋ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂಥರ ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ದುಃಖ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆವಾಗ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, 1 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಮ್ದು ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜ್. ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ನಾಗರಾಜ್ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ ಅಂತ, ನಮ್ಮ ವೈಫು ಪಾರ್ವತಿ ಅಂತ. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮದುವೆ ಆಗಿದ್ದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮಗಳು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸದ್ಯ ಅಕ್ಕ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಸ್ಟರು ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸು ಸೆಂಟಿಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ, ಸೆಂಟಿಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳೇನು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮಗಳನ್ನೇ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದೊಂದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಇತ್ತು. ನಮ್ಮ ತಾಯಿನೂ ಅದೇ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಸರಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಈ 2 ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಒಂಥರ ಈ ಥರ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. 2 ಒಂದು ಹೆಣ್ಮಗು, 2ನೇದು ಗಂಡು ಮಗು. ತುಂಬ ನಿಲ್ಲು, ಏನು ಕೇಳಿಸಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಮಾತಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ರಕ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧದಲ್ಲಿ ಮದುವೆ ಆದರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಈ ಥರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಏನೋ ನನ್ನ ಅಂದಾಜಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. ರಕ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಯರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಆಗ್ಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ.
I don't find any joy as such, because whatever has happened to our life it's too much. Can't just think of their future, what will happen.
And that is only the problem.
No, certainly not. It would not involve pharmaceutical companies. The whole expense of a prophylactic drug is totally eliminated. The only expense is the expense needed for spreading awareness, that is television, radio, and so many other media that are used.
Do you think normal people must learn sign language? Yes. People should not get married. Same. Please don't get married to your relatives. Please do love deaf children when they do sign language. Please accept and love them.
It is all left to God, madam. Please don't want to think of their future. I have not thought anything. I don't know how it is going to come up and all. It is too painful for me.
But for any mother, what do you feel? What can I give my daughters for them to be okay?
Good education.
Yeah, at present that's all what we can give.
Able to give.
And I leave everything on God. God only should take care of them.
And suitable hearing aids we are given.
What about belief in themselves? Some belief.
Yeah, sometimes when I think of God, okay, God has given me like this and God should give me the strength to help them and to give good education and they should stand on their own legs. That's all my prayer to God. That's all.
For those millions already crushed by terrible poverty, the added burden of coping with a deaf child, or in some cases, 2 or 3 deaf children, becomes impossible. This in turn leads to delinquency and other social problems. Depression, especially in mothers, is very common. Thus, if the following simple message could be spread throughout the country, it could save thousands from a terrible tragedy. Deafness due to consanguinity or blood marriages is 100% preventable.
నీకు ఇవి వినపడలేదు, ఇది వినపడలేదు. నువ్వు చూడే, నువ్వు పెద్దోడుగా మీసాలంతా ఆమెకి వద్దు వద్దు కలుపుకున్నావు, ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళంతా పోతారు, నువ్వు పోయకొద్దా?
நாலேஜ் எனக்கு இருந்தது, ஆனால் அவ்வளோ அவேர்னஸ் இல்லை, ஒரு பிட் நாலேஜ் தான் இருந்தது. அப்புறம் தான் இந்த இது பிறகு நான் சோமனி மெடிக்கಲ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ பார்த்து
ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಏನೋ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು, ನಮಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ಬೇಜಾರಾಗ್ತಿದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ. ನೋಡು ಅವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ನೋಡಿ, ಯಾವ ಥರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊತಾರೆ. ನನಗೆ ಇಂಥದ್ದು ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆಸೆ ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ,
ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅವ್ರನ್ನೇ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ,
ಬೇಜಾರಾಗ್ತೈತೆ. ನಾವು ಇವ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಇಂಥ ಹುಡುಗನ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಓಡೋಗೋ ಅಂಗಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ತಗೊಂಬೋಗೋ ಇಂಥದ್ದು ಅಂತ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಓಡೋಗಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಅದೇ ಬರೆದು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ನಗ್ತಾರೆ. ನೋಡಪ್ಪ ಮೂಗಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳು, ಮೂಗರು ಅಂತ, ಮೂಗರು 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 ಮೂಗರು
as with everything, including the book and even just today's book launch, there's so many people who so quietly just came alongside Mom and supported her through this. You see it in the credits. People who contributed finances for the films to be made or even the copies to be made. And of course, my father, who was there quietly behind it all. Yeah. So really what we'd like to do right now is to just share just a couple of things that we felt that, ways in which we can use this material that's there to really make a difference and to take this message wider, deeper, further, and hopefully in some way make an impact and maybe shift attitudes, shift perspectives, especially through stories like you saw just now in the film. Perhaps maybe be able to shift attitudes to this practice. Yeah. So basically what we have, so we have this book and we also have the PDF copy of the book. We will be sending it out to all of you who've come today, and also the PDF is something you can just send out, and if you feel you want to translate it and all of that also, please just go ahead and do that into the language. The book right now is only in English, but what you see here is the YouTube channel. And really, so it says Consanguineous Marriages and Disability. And what this has is really all the material, all the film material here. There's this film that you saw, Sounds of Silence, which is in English, Tamil, Telugu, and Kannada. There are ad spots, actually, TV spots, which again now can be used on social media. And also there is one film here, which is, if you can see the cursor, it's called Consanguineous Marriages and Disability. It's actually an AV, an audio visual. And actually, I'm really happy that Radha is here, Radha Prati, because she's a journalist, a writer, and a very dear friend of my mother's. And what she helped us do is, because this is an issue that is not only about that consanguineous marriages doesn't only lead to deafness, but every possible kind of disability, as well as congenital issues and chronic illnesses, and including malnourishment. And you'll see that in the book. The book has a whole paper on that, a section on that. But this video actually, which is in Kannada, it's an AV which is with a Kannada voiceover, talks about the issue of consanguineous marriages and disability in general and other congenital illnesses in general. So you can use that as well. All of this are completely Creative Commons, completely free, can be used. And these links will be sent to you. Or as I said on the book, there's a QR code where you can use it. Yeah, so really the things that this is really about having conversations, because we do realize that it's an issue, as Mom said, that it's a social custom. Kirtana also talked about it. It's not something that you can really legislate beyond a point, as much as really be able to have these conversations, share these stories, and hopefully through using of the resources and these stories, shift attitudes and therefore action. So for at NGOs, we just thought that maybe this could be, there's so many of you here today, and that's just so encouraging actually, because really that's the work, that's where we want to reach the work. And so therefore, to be able to use these materials, one to kind of, because we realized that even within the NGO sector itself, this was not something that was understood as clearly. And so therefore, just even in terms of understanding the issues at hand, and the book actually goes into more detail on the genetics and the reasons why and the connections and all of that. So it's like almost like a resource handbook as well for this issue. And therefore then through that facilitating conversations with the community, and even in terms of looking at it perhaps in the education system, universities, how can we start bringing this issue into wider areas of awareness? So that's again something that can be used. Yes. And of course also, this is not an issue actually that's confined to, or that's only seen in underserved communities with the poor. Actually, while it impacts them very dramatically and very devastatingly, this is something in the South that is across socioeconomic strata. I mean, I had a friend who recently said this is something that's a practice across their communities. And so therefore, it's something that each and every one of us, we can, one is to educate ourselves, to educate our families, maybe to create awareness with our families, but also in our own communities, in our own societies, can we also share this with perhaps people who are domestic workers, who are watchmen in the buildings, etc., and give them the link so that they can have these conversations within their families. Just like the story that Lalana shared, actually, that young girl came from an underserved community, and when she heard this, she got her parents and mom shared this with them, and they were able to stop that marriage. So really, in every way we can, it's a simple way, but a way to reach people.
Yeah, and I think finally, when Amy started on this book and when the films were made, social media didn't even exist. And so trying to spread a message was a lot harder because you only had like a certain channel you could go through. But something that, all of us can do today is to take these resources, which are free, they're in the Creative Commons, and share it throughout all of our networks. With the films, everybody is very welcome to dub them in the language they think is best, to caption them, to cut clips. With the book, it's a PDF, so you can upload that link to your social media, or you can take screenshots, or you could even just take on the back of the book, there's the QR code that links you to all the resources, and just share that. But all of us, can do activism on our own terms with our networks in the way that we think it'll reach people the most. And so that's the exciting thing about our generation. I'll put it back on, these are the resources. If you click the link to the Google form that I've been posting in the chat, there's a link to the slides from the Google form. There's a link to the form from the slides. So everything's connected everywhere. And so all of you should have access to all of these resources.
So really, that brings us in a sense to the end of this the session. I just want to very specially say a thank you also, because I know so many of our partners are here because of the efforts of Ryan, of Mariswamy, of Sunil from CRY, of John from CRY. So just want to say really thank you to all of you for spreading the word and just giving us the opportunity to share this work with so many people who are on the ground, in the field, and working with communities. So really thank you to all of you. I just want to also say again a thank you to Regina here. Yes, my mother is also saying yes, thank you. And just to everybody who's been part of today's, I want to say a special word to Radha also, who's been so helpful through this entire project. There have been so many people over the years. The book will give you a long list of people who've collaborated and supported this work. Jessie, if you'd like to say a few words, just.
I'm so happy to see Doctor's work at last in the form of a book, because she has been working so hard, knocking so many doors, government doors, to just tell them that please do something to stop hearing impairment, because I've been working here almost 32 years now, and hearing impairment is, I think, one of the worst disability a person can have, because it's an invisible impairment, and the children look just like one of us. But the saddest part is their language development and their comprehension and understanding. And as doctor says, this can be prevented 100% if the people think that marrying within their blood relationship, and the government putting in some kind of an order saying that please do not marry within your blood relation, it can be prevented. And doctor, you did great work, doctor, in getting all the things together, and she has been one of our greatest friends in our school, because she appreciates all of us, and she has so much of advice for each one of us. She took care of our children so well, And we terribly miss you, doctor, when you're not coming to our school. It is really, really, everybody talks about you not being able to come to the school. But I know your blessings will be always there, and we can always connect to you for any problem in the school with our children's health. So thank you so much, doctor, but I hope we meet again. I'm sure you'll be able to come to the school and meet all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Before we end, actually, I just wanted to keep it, I'm just putting it on gallery view. Oh, am I removing spotlights? Yeah. Just to, if there are any, we're not going to be able to have too much of a Q&A at this point in time, but because of time. But if there are any questions specifically or anything you'd like to share, you can post it in the chat, yeah, we can get back to you, or if there's anything you want to share right now, you can post it in the chat and we'll share that with Mom as well. So just to everybody, if anybody wants to leave, please feel free, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Najoo, loved it, and thank you so much. You are such an inspiration to all of
Ahalya.
us. This is Ahalya here.
Ahalya.
Najoo, love you. Love you.
Bye.
Like you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye, Najoo auntie. Bye, Pervin, Ava. All of
Bye,
you.
Kana. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Najoo auntie. Amazing time that was. And now I'm looking forward to the book. First, I thought, oh, let me be, I just take the PDF. But now, no. I want to autograph it.
Yes, you get.
But for sure, that's a really good idea, Pervin. Ava, it's a super idea about the short clips for social media. So we'll definitely start doing that.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.
Taking,
Bye.
Bye, Lovely Auntie. Thank you for being there.
Bye, Najoo Masi. Bye, Pervin.
Bye, Gauri.
Bye, Nawaz, Ava, Ari.
I just changed my mic. I don't know if you can hear me, Najoo auntie. Hello? Hi. Najoo auntie, everybody, I just want to say thank you so much. That was just the most beautiful, most inspiring morning ever, to see all the work that has gone into this over the past almost 40 years now. Just unbelievable. And Najoo auntie, forever, you're my biggest inspiration. It's not only your commitment to this work, but it's just how kind and gentle your heart is, and how such an almost frustrating issue, you deal with it with so much openness and so much love, allowing all those families sort of that grace that you have allowed all of us throughout our knowings of you. Sorry if that was blabbering, but thank you so much, now everybody.
Thanks,
my friend.
Yeah, your partner through editing.
Yes.
Mom, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you.
Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you.
Wait.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all the people who made this possible, and thank you very much to all the people who came.